Assalamu alaikum. Welcome back to another video. In today's video, we will be discussing what are men's rights and dissecting the rhetoric that comes with it. On 19th of November was International Men's Rights. Before we take a look on what men's rights are, I need to emphasize the importance of intersectionality and to say that men do face oppression, but because of certain aspects of their identity, not particularly because they are men, and also examining how toxic masculinity is actually causing the problem. Let us talk about circumcision. It's a controversial topic because Muslims, Jews, Christians, and other Abrahamic groups that observe this practice would get very sensitive in conversations relating to consent. Often, when it comes to surgeries like intersex babies, parents are given the ultimate authority. And for men, especially those who are assigned male at birth, they have no choice in the matter of getting that procedure done. And often, dangerous practices, especially unsanitary practices, are common in many parts of the world. And it is an issue that affect men because when they grow up, they will be affected by it. And I am a firm believer of consent, and therefore, like any other non essential surgery, circumcision should be at the age of consent. Then let's move on to the rhetoric that people who dislike feminism, hate feminism, I would say, and social justice use against us in order to weaponize men's rights. First of all, when it comes to homelessness, often the driving factors has to do with your socioeconomic status. Like if you come from a poor, poor lower class background, you're most likely to live in poverty. There are cases where they're an exception, but it isn't the norm. It isn't a regular thing. And often, what people who advocate for men's rights forget is that intersectionality. Do they talk about men of color? Do they talk about men with disabilities, mental illnesses, chronic conditions, and illnesses that would not make them useful under this parasitic capitalist structure? Are they queer? Are they gay? Are they bi? Are they trans? And how this affects when you're applying for work as a man. And often they forget on purpose to mention these factors is because their agenda is to bash feminism, is to degrade social justice, but at the same time, uh, get away with the insidious nature of not realizing that there are a much bigger tentacles of oppression that plays a role on why do men get affected by this. Like, for example, men's mortality rates in high risk jobs, like dealing with machinery, dealing with electricity, um, also cleaning cleaning jobs that um, like has to do with toxic waste and um, construction work are high risk, and often people would tend to blame or were the women advocating for them. But a better question is, were the men advocating for their protection? Were the male CEOs advocating for their protection? Where are the people in corporations advocating to change the safety guidelines for men so they won't get put onto risk? Which brings me to the next topic of sexual assault. Sexual assault is something that happens to you regardless of your gender, but for men, it's a stigma because of toxic masculinity. Often, men are viewed as strong, having to hide their emotions, and often they are not believed. And these anti feminist, anti social justice groups blame it solely on the women. Are there toxic women? Yes. There are women who sexually assault men. There are women who mentally abuse them. There are women that physically abuse men. And you have to understand, like, with power dynamics. For example, women who take advantage of students and underage boys. That is a power dynamic. Or, like, for example, white women who lie against black men and men of color in order to get what they want because they're using racism as the system, as white women, to get control over men. And I do have strong objections about people in social justice and feminist circles defending these type of predators, but at the same time uh, pressuring social justice organization, especially women's organizations, where it is generally underfunded and not holding CEOs and uh, the petty bourgeoisie accountable is bullshit. You just want to bash feminism. You don't care about men's rights. Where are you when warfare happens? That kills a lot of men. It doesn't only kill the soldiers from your side, it also kills people of color, especially men who are labeled as terrorists. So, like, next time you complain about, like, how come men are being underrepresented, ask yourselves, where are the men and where are you when men really need you? Are you there for them, or you're just using them as a weapon against people you disagree with?